I don't see the Ambassadors of Death listed as a classic near often enough as it ought to. I think this is one of the very best of the Third Doctor serials, any of the storyline serials from the classic era. This is so deliciously Quatermass. Slow paced, events moving at an even pace. What was the thing Mike Stacklasa once said about Star Trek: The Motion Picture? Not to take this literally, I suppose, but he said that you can run errands while you're watching Star Trek: The Motion Picture. You can go to the store, pick up some milk. You can go just get some mailing done at the post office. You can go say hi to your neighbor. You can come back into the room for television. You don't even have to pause the movie. Now, you don't, as I said, you don't literally do any of that. But what you do is, it's almost like you experience the film's characters, in this case, serial's characters, operating in real time, trying to solve the mystery, trying to figure out what's going on, and reacting to new discoveries along the way. And I think it can be such a compelling formula when done right. Characters sitting in rooms and lab coats trying to figure out what's going on, some dramatic music cues here and there, a competent production aesthetic and with good cinematographic sense. These can be so enthralling, despite not having any fast-paced, violent action sequences of any or many kinds. And this is where I feel as though I think the Ambassadors of Death, it strikes me as close to being the finest example of that in Doctor Who. The Seeds of Death is a very, very admirable example toward the end of the second Doctor, Troughton's epoch. Although Ambassadors of Death, it's also got some of the finest imagery, I think, in the history of certainly the Pertwee era. Ambassadors of Death, people say the Daemons is the most Quatermass of the Doctor Who serials or Third Doctor serials. The most Quatermass would be a Third Doctor serial, inevitably. And due to its resemblance to Quatermass in the Pit in particular, this is true. Although the idea of a Quatermass story occurring on Earth, some mystery involving rocket ships, it's very reminiscent of the first Quatermass storyline in particular, which has been mostly lost. Although you can see the complete storyline in the... I think Neil was too happy, Nigel Neal, the writer, was too happy with it, but the 55 Val Guest directed film Quatermass Experiment, the Hammer Picture starring Brian Donlevy, I think is really good for what it is. Anyway, so the point is, Ambassadors of Death, for certain fans of just Doctor Who, Ambassadors of Death might be dry, but for myself, who thinks that Neil is possibly the finest script writer of the 20th century, if not for his peer in British television, Dennis Potter, maybe, there's such a glorious appeal to that formula which Neil had worked out for Quatermass, and it's so beautifully executed in the well-funded. This particular era of Doctor Who is tremendously well-funded. From this season up until Baker's third season, the show is at its best as far as the production values go during the 20th century. Arguably, you could say the Pertwee run, just by virtue of only Baker's first 3 seasons falling into the era, Pertwee's run was the most able era of VFX and production values in classic Doctor Who. We'll close it here. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it very, very immensely.